Hello, kings and queens and those between. It is I, Liz, the T-Rex, and I'm here to tell you another story. This time, it's not really a story. Well, it kind of is. I'm talking about goals and writing routines today. Specifically, all the things I've messed up in my journey to figure out my writing routine and setting my own goals. So, if you are new here, hello, welcome. My name is Liz. I am an aspiring fantasy fiction writer. I don't think I've brought up what genre I'm trying to write in, but I've said it now finally. Right now, this channel is really just me sharing my journey, and eventually I'll have something to share. Right now, I don't because I'm still organizing myself. But if you've been here before, hello, welcome back. And remember to hit that like button or the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And let's get in with today's video because it's been a minute and, and I'm already getting distracted. So I've never been really good at setting my own goals because I either set the goals way too high or I don't work on them consistently, and I don't do anything to build the momentum to keep me going. So I've made a lot of mistakes, and all of these mistakes started about 4 years ago. I remember I was watching like my fourth rewatch of Bleach, and if you're into anime, you know that anime is long. It's a long boy. Not as long as One Piece, which I just got into, by the way, but it takes some time to get through it, especially with all those filler arcs. Oh goodness, the filler arcs. Anyways, I realized in that moment that was no longer in school. I didn't have any homework assignments. I didn't have exams to cram for. I was done. Done for the foreseeable future. Which meant I had a whole lot of free time, if you couldn't tell by my fourth rewatch of Bleach. And instead of doing a health themed New Year's resolution, I realized that I wanted to change it up. I wanted to put time towards a specific, oh wow, I'm butchering words today. But I wanted to put time towards a specific hobby that I had set to the side in favor of paying attention to college and all that stuff. And this hobby was writing, as you can tell by my channel and the fact that it's centered around writing. Now, I need to remind you, at this point, I hadn't really written anything consistently in about 4 to 6 years, so it's been a while. The gears I used to write creatively, they were a little rusty. And what do you think I had in mind for a great New Year's resolution for writing? I was going to write 1 million words in a year. Yep, good old smart move past Liz. I set that goal for myself, and no, I didn't hit it because I ended up burning out midway through the year. Specifically, because like I said, I have ADHD, and sometimes I mess up and I make my goals way too big, and whenever I don't hit them, or if it becomes more of a challenge to hit them, I lose momentum really quickly. Pro tip out there for anyone that has ADHD: if you are setting a goal for yourself, you need to break the goal down into like smaller sections rather than one gigantic goal. Because what happens is you lose momentum towards your progress, and you burn out. That's what happens. You end up burning out, and then you'll go months without even touching the hobby or working towards the goal, and that's exactly what happened. I think like 3 months into the year, that 2 to 3 months into the year, I hit my burnout point, because if you do the math on 1 million words, it's about 2.7 thousand words in a day, and that's without taking a day off. That's not good for the brain. You need time to do other things, especially if this is a hobby you haven't done in a while or a skill that you're learning or you're still new to. Don't do massive goals. Now, if someone is a professional writer and they do this full time, they might be able to hit this goal, and I might one day go back to this New Year's resolution, but as of right now, no. My goal has changed. I have grown. Currently, my New Year's resolution this year is I'm trying to get to a point where I'm writing 20 hours consistently in a week. That is my goal. A lot more doable than it was the 4 years ago. So the year after that, I realized that those heavy word counts, they weren't working. So I decided that instead of aiming for that big word count, I was going to try and write consistently every day, which is a lot more doable. But I was only tracking word count. Not only that, but I didn't really have a plan as to what I wanted to write, because remind you, I gears are a little bit rusty at this point. I'm still kind of figuring out everything at this point, because this was 3 years ago at the point that I did this one. And I was only really tracking my word count. So what happened is I ended up starting to bounce between project to project, and this is when my world builder disease really started to pick up. I had fun with the world building, but because I didn't have a plan on what I wanted to work on specifically, I didn't really make progress to any of my projects. I just kind of kept making new ones, to the point that I now have 3 spirals worth of ideas, or 3 notebooks worth of ideas just sitting there. It's not organized. I'm now having to go through all of them and sort through the ideas that I had so that I can have a consistent plan on how I want to work on them. And that's what I've been doing this year, kind of. So there's my next bit of advice is have a plan, and also have more than one way to track your progress, and I'll get into that the next time, or the next thing that I did. So the year after that, which is last year, I decided that I was going to base my progress off of time, because while I was tracking word count, I realized that there was days where I would spend it plotting and like brainstorming. So the word counts weren't really high, but I was putting in like 4 hours of work organizing my thoughts, but what didn't show on paper because I didn't have those word counts written down. So I decided to switch it up and track my time. And my goal, again, this is where I messed up with making my goals too big. I was trying to hit 40 hours of writing time a week. Now, if someone's not working, that's probably really doable. That's somebody that's already writing full time and that is their main job. At this point in time, I was already working between 40 to 50 hours. So I didn't have, I had free time, but all of it was going towards writing. And as someone that has, because I also have clinical depression, it's something that I deal with, you need to set time aside to do other things, because you end up burning out that way, because you're not taking time to let your brain recharge and let it do what it needs to. I wasn't setting time for friends or to take a break from the screen. And I ended up burning out midway through the year because my brain just wasn't hitting those marks that I needed to. And again, I was just adding more ideas to my project notebooks, and it became one big mess that like I said, I'm still sorting through that giant mess. I probably will find a few more notebooks here in the near future with more things to add to it. But those are the 3 times I've messed up. Now, last year, that same year where I made that mistake with my writing time, I ended up going to Dragonsteel, and they had these little passport books that you could get stamps for doing certain activities or going to certain panels. And I realized that something about getting that stamp, that helped me. It encouraged me to want to be more active. I did not slow down at that convention. I was constantly up and doing things. I had a long list of panels. I would leave our hotel room at 10 in the morning, and I'd come back at 10 o'clock at night. So we were very busy, very active. But something about those stamps, it added the dopamine that my brain really needs, because it doesn't make enough dopamine. And so I realized that I needed to add a system where I could give myself my own stamps or check marks and stuff. So this year, it's kind of been me experimenting with that, because I had already made my New Year's resolution at that point, which is to do the 20 hours of writing, or at least get to the point where I'm doing 20 hours of writing. But I hadn't figured out a good way to track it or to establish a plan on what I wanted to work on, because I had figured out not having a plan was part of my problem, and I needed to curve it a little bit. So that's what we started building. And I came up with a system where at first it was going to be bingo cards, but then my issue with that is that they weren't organized enough, and my brain became overwhelmed with figuring out what it wanted to work on. So I changed my system, and maybe I'll share it one day, because right now it's still kind of messy because I'm still trying to figuring out the routine and how I'm going to use it. But what I've switched to it this year is I have a planner that has a list of the projects that I am focusing heavily on. And I've given all of my projects code names and numbers just to kind of make it easier for me to write it down in the notebook. But also, I've added little stamp sections or sticker sections, so whenever I finish a part in that project, I can check mark it off and get that dopamine rush that my brain really needs. And it has helped tremendously. I will share a picture of it one day. Not right now, though, because if I do, it will spoil some of my plans for this year. And so, no pictures of it yet, but eventually it will happen. But that is my advice for if anyone is building a writing routine or trying to set a goal for themselves. Advice number 1, have a plan. Some kind of plan to keep your brain focused, especially if you are neurodivergent like I am and your brain likes to wander. Because, my friends, my brain, it wanders. It wanders bad, to the point that my significant other, Shadow, constantly has to help me bring my attention back whenever we're amongst friends, because I will get distracted. I have ADHD and I'm not medicated for it, so it just kind of lives out in the wild. And yeah, it's a big problem, but we're figuring out how to keep it maintained. And my first video up, I also said that I needed people to remind me to keep writing, and now I have a friend that every now and again he'll send me memes reminding me to write. So he's holding me accountable now, which is very, very nice. And that's helpful. My next round of advice is have some way to track your progress in more than one way, because again, especially if you are writing or with any goal in general, there's gonna be days where you might not put as much work into one part of your goal versus the other. So with me, I can't just track word counts, because my brain won't focus on the specific tasks so that I can actually complete a project. So now what I have in my planner, I gotta look at it. So I have a series of check marks that's based on time, and that's to help me track the time I've spent towards writing. And anything can go in those hour slots. So it can be, maybe I do an hour plotting for a specific story. Maybe I do an hour of actually writing and brainstorming and trying to figure out my writing routine, because I'm still kind of working on those. But, and then on another page, I have 2 projects that I'm working on currently. I have a bigger project that I still want to work on the sidelines, specifically on days when writer's block is hitting me and I need to let it recharge from a project. I have check boxes for YouTube videos because I realize I need to grow that. And then on the side of that, I have a series of tasks related to those specific projects. And I start off with like 3 of them, and if I check one off, I'll add like an extra one. That way I'm not overloading my brain, and it has helped me so much. I have put more time into writing this year with this system than I had with the first chunk of the year. So we're doing good. And as for my writing goal this year, I think I've said it already, but I'll say it again. This year, my goal is to at least get to the point where I'm writing 20 hours consistently. And I've broken it down into 5-hour reward marks. So the way I'm planning to hit that or build momentum is, once I'm hitting, or like right now, this part of the year, I'm trying to get to the point where I have at least 5 hours of writing for 4 months straight. And then whenever I'm hitting that consistently, that'll move to 10 hours. And then if I can hit that for 4 weeks in a row, it'll go up to 15, then 20. Like, I'm building momentum versus trying to do it all at once. And doing it that way, it has hit my brain with so much dopamine because I'm able to check things off. I can give myself a sticker whenever I hit bigger goals. So my next bit of advice is figure out what your brain responds to, because everybody's different. And the system that they use to track their stuff, it can vary from person to person. What works for me might not work for you, but trying different things and figuring out why they work and why they don't work, it can really help you set those goals, because it has helped me. And it's not a perfect system, because it's one that I started figuring it out in the beginning of April, maybe a little bit before April. So there's some things I've changed. Like, my first mistake in the beginning is I overloaded my notebook with things, and now I've narrowed it down. I have this program, it's called Obsidian, and I'm using that to kind of help track my progress too. So yeah, that has been my story with figuring out my writing routine. If you enjoy this, hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Tell me some of the things you have tried with figuring out your writing routine, or tell me some of the stuff that you're planning to try with your writing routine. I'd love to hear them. Maybe one day I'll have a day where I read through some of the comments and stuff like that. But if you are also an aspiring writer, stick around. We can join this journey together, because I certainly don't know what I'm doing, but that's the whole point of learning, is that you figure it out as you go. Anyways, that's all I have time for. You have a wonderful day, and remember to drink some water and do something to help your brain slow down. It's okay. You have a wonderful day.